Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. This is the place to be for stories to inspire and uplift when life doesn't go according to our plans. I'm Laura Muirhead, your host and the reigning queen of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. I can't wait to share the plot twist stories of my guests that will inspire and uplift you when life didn't follow the plan, right here on A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. I'm your host, Laura Muirhead, and I am so happy to welcome Lisa Jara today as our guest. So Lisa, come and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about yourself and what you do in the world.
Sure. And first of all, thank you very much that I get this opportunity to be a guest on your podcast. It's really a really cool thing. So I'm Lisa and I live in Germany. And I work as a soul-based coach with women basically throughout all cycles of life, but especially in my coaching when women are moving through challenging transitions. So the dark night of the soul, if you will. Because I've always been very fascinated with life and with how we humans do life and do it differently. But I've always been fascinated by the shadow aspects of life and the treasures that can be found there. So that's why in my coaching, at least, I focus more on these moments where we can really need a hand to lean on to move through it.
I love that. I did have I've looked at your website and saw it, and I've seen some of your Facebook posts, and I love that that's what you do to help people in maybe areas that we don't talk about or don't want to talk about as much, but they're so important to have someone to help lead you through it. Now, have you always done this? What kind, have this type of work, or what led you, tell us a little bit about what has led you, a little bit of background and what led you to this type of work that you do today?
So no, I have not always been doing this. And it was actually the funny thing that happened on the way to my life that brought me to the work I'm doing, I'm honored to do today. Before I've worked in finance and I've studied Chinese. I've traveled through China and other Southeast Asian countries, and so also for work. And I at one point, which we will probably dive in a moment, something happened that made me realize that I'm really good with holding people through stuff, whatever it is they experience. And after I realized that, it still took a while, and I have become self-employed only this year. Up until then, I still work part-time for a women's rights organization, because these things like women's rights and also girls' rights especially are very important and dear to my heart. And that's why in my coaching, it's so important to me to help women realize the power they hold and remember the power they hold, because I think we all know it's there, but we don't know how to access it. And that we all have the power to make choices to lead our life into a direction that we want to move in.
That I love that. It's really important. I mean, that's a really important message to get out to women and to girls, and to support them in that way. That's an incredible mission for you. Your funny thing happened on my life. A funny thing happened on the way to my life story. You did have at least one aha big moment like that, an experience that was a funny thing happened on the way to my life. Would you talk to us about that?
Of course. And I might start a little earlier. So in in my family, like, it was always clear that I would finish high school, like, we do have a different school system, so what is comparable to your college, and that I would go to university. That was always a given in my family. My grandmother, for example, fought hard for her girls to go to or to be able to go to university, and so it was always out of question that I would do that. And then after I finished university, and what now? So that was basically the first time I was free to do what I wanted. And that probably, like, at the time it was subconscious, but it was probably so overwhelming that I started to put all these rules in place that I had gathered from different things that I had witnessed over the years, beliefs that I had taken on, and so on. And I created this life for me that became very contracting and restricting myself more and more, and putting pressure on myself. And I have lived with OCD for a long time by now, and with eating disorders, and they are both about controlling, especially controlling emotions, suppressing emotions. And it got to a point where one day I asked myself, do I want to continue like this for the next 40 years? If I have to do that, I think I would prefer to quit now. Not that I was suicidal, not at all, but that was the moment where I decided, okay, something has to change now. I didn't know where to. I just needed where I didn't want to go anymore. And in that moment, I went into a treatment center for 3 months. And that's where, like, the funny thing happened. I had always thought my life would be like, yeah, okay, university, you've got a job, you, I don't know, get married, have kids, and someday you retire, and on the way you hopefully enjoy your life. And then suddenly, like, or over the years, I had put this kind of lid on myself, like with a with a pressure cooker, and you put the lid on it, and it didn't work. And in that moment where all the pressure, so to speak, the lid was taken off, and all the pressure wasn't there anymore. I didn't, in that treatment center, I didn't have to think about what to cook, to buy groceries, to go to work, to perform well in my job. I could just be me, and I could just care for myself, and I could just talk to the other people in there. And that was so interesting. And I remember that I'd always loved that. Like I said, I traveled through China and other countries. I've always loved being with people and getting to know their worldview, their culture, the experiences they have made in their life. And it was so nice. And I felt so vibrant and alive for the first time in ages. And so I knew this is my path. This is how life is supposed to feel. And I remember that after the 3 months, like, everybody called me co-therapist, because, I mean, I wasn't doing anything special, but apparently just by talking to them, something, it helped them shift perspective, and they felt better, and I helped them through emotional crises. And I discovered that I seem to have this talent of just holding people and not doing much seemingly, but in them a lot happens. And so after that, I knew where I wanted to go moving forward. And it didn't work out perfectly from the beginning. There were definitely a lot of challenges on the way still. And just because I knew what I wanted to do didn't mean, like, I mean, I still had all the beliefs, the limiting beliefs in place, right? And so it took a long time to let them go. And finally, this year, last year, I became a coach. I did a coaching training in soul-based coaching. And this year, I finally got my business going. And
Well,
I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, huge congratulations for that. That it is huge. And I just as you're talking, there's so many things that are running through my mind as you're talking about this. And one of them to go back is that that of course there's so many of us that are told, this is your path to go to college and do whatever. So I find it interesting that once you were out of the university and free to basically do whatever you wanted, this is when it almost becomes overwhelming. And I think that that is the same for a lot of people, that they're, at least here in the States, even when people, they're starting college, you hear these stories in high school, like, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? What are you going to study in college? Oh, what are you going to be when you get out of college? And there is so much pressure. And I realized a long time ago also that maybe it's okay to change course in the middle of college. I actually told my daughter that when she started school, that if you go into this school that you've chosen, this university that you've chosen, and you find that maybe this isn't the place for you, or maybe this isn't the course of study that is the best for you, please say something, please, let's change it. And I think for most of us, we feel that pressure to just stay on that same course and not change it. But also, like you said, when you got out of the university, when you're free to do what you wanted, in order to work through life, you started putting all these, regimens in place because of experiences that we tend to have growing up. So, let me make sure that I'm regimented, but that becomes, like you said, the pressure cooker. And I love that you took the space, that you actually took the space for you to allow yourself to get to know yourself a little better, to expand yourself. And like you said, it was so free because you didn't have the rules of, that you've put on place or that society's put in place. You were free to just do these things and ultimately find really your greatest gift out of that. And how amazing is that you didn't, for people to give you that feedback, I'm sure a lot of them, there was some level of therapy probably being offered when you were in there, but you end up being maybe the greatest therapist over what the structure of the therapy in that program was.
Yeah, and I mean, also because, I was there in the afternoon, so they had a deeper connection with me anyway, and then you open up more easily than with a formal psychotherapist. I could imagine, at least. And yeah, I would like to speak to this overwhelming feeling that you have when there are too many options. Because what I have found to be true for me, but also for others, is that we very often do know what we don't want, but we haven't actually been asked what we do want. Or if we have been asked and we have voiced it, especially, I dare to say, as women, it's more like, that's too big a vision. No, you can't have that. No, that's unrealistic. Come back down to earth.
Right.
And so, if we exclude all of that from the beginning, then we don't have many options anymore. It limits what is possible. And today I'm very grateful that I have resources and tools to know what to do in these cases, and that I am very well able, and that I dare and can ask myself, what would I like to have happen? And I'm allowed to ask that. It doesn't mean I always get what I want, of course not. But I'm allowed to say and voice, or think at least, what I would like to have happen. And then in the means of the circumstances, what is possible, choose where I want to go. And this power of choice, for me is a very important thing, because like at the time when there were all these rules and compulsions going, I felt powerless. And I know that a lot of other people feel powerless as well, be it due to circumstances or to other people, because they don't want to hurt anybody, paying attention to other people's emotions, and yeah, just wanting everyone else to be happy, but like forgetting ourselves. And so that's important to know where you want. I love this metaphor of the navigation system in a car. You can't tell the car where you don't want to go. You have to tell it where to go, otherwise it won't move forward.
That's a really great analogy. I love that. And it is true. I've had in the past couple of weeks multiple conversations with people who we've talked about that, and it's coming up again. It's a theme right now of people know what they don't want. You can say what you don't want, but what do you want? And so many times when you ask someone that, they go, "Oh, I don't know." Mm-hmm. And when I was graduated from high school, I remember having this really incredible feeling of, okay, like right now, like now I'm out of high school, I could literally do anything that I wanted to do, and within reason. Like maybe I'm not the perfect person to be a brain surgeon. Maybe I don't have those talents, but maybe at the same time, if I really wanted it bad enough and studied hard enough, I could do that. But there was that feeling of overwhelm of like, if you could do anything that you want, what are you going to choose? Like what do you choose to do? And it is overwhelming, but I also agree with you on so much that we are so programmed in this world to be so concerned about everyone else and to put ourselves aside. And until you come back to yourself and know what you want and can be happy in those choices, that's when you're going to be able to have the really best support the people around you. And I love that you have these tools and are supporting other women and girls with that. It's so important, and to get that message out to them, it's really huge.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the case that you immediately know where you want to go, but you go there step by step, like you say. And I love that you told your daughter that if at any point you realize this is not it, move to something else that you think it is at the time. And so it's when we say what we would like to have happen and move into the direction, it's okay if in the middle of the way we find, no, that's still not it. So we course correct a little bit and move towards what we think. And so the further and further we go, the more we go towards our truth. And I believe that's where our purpose lies, and also the meaning we get out of life. It's our truth, just being who we are right now.
Right, absolutely. And I think so many times when people we're wanting to please everyone so much, or even looking at ourselves saying, oh, maybe this isn't, I tried this and it didn't work, it's not what I want anymore. You put on this on yourself this, I'll be looked at as a failure because I didn't complete whatever I set out to do. Now people, whoever it is, friends, family, whatever, parents, they'll think I'm a failure. And that's not the case. It's not the case. It's just a change it's really a funny thing happened on the way to my life. I thought this was something I would enjoy, and I tried it. And maybe it's something that you even enjoy for a little while, but realize it's not the end, it's not it for you. And I also love that in your coaching, you fully experienced all of this. So you're coming really from a heart-centered place, of knowing for yourself what people go through and then can help them that way as well. But yeah, Absolutely. What an important, again, I just keep saying it's such an important thing that you're doing, and I love it. And to empower people this way and help them to find their truth.
Yeah, and what I believe is that we move through cycles, and like we at one point we might come back to a place where we think, oh, that again, I'm back in the same place I was before. But no, you're not. You've moved a full circle, and now you're at seeming the same place, but it's on a different level with a different level of consciousness. And so like we spiral upwards or inwards to our truth more and more. And that's why I like the other part of my business is I love working with cyclical living, and that does not just include our personal moon or menstrual cycle. It also includes the moon cycle, it includes the seasons, and it includes the different cycles, for example, women move through in life, like becoming a woman, becoming a mother, becoming the crone, and like each celebrating each step on the way and learning how we want to move through it, like in a way that feels good to us, and that's different for everyone.
This, I think, is so important as well, because I feel like so many women are becoming more aware of this and embracing it so much more now. And it's great to have somebody like you to lead them through it. But like you said, you come back, you think you're coming back to the same place. But if you even think about that, the moon's going to be full again in a couple of days, but it's not the same. The moon isn't even in the same place as it was last month when it was full. It's constantly moving. And to honor these cycles and honor, our human cycles, but also the cycles in nature and the universe, that I love that you're merging all of that together.
Yeah, and it's actually only since I went to that treatment center that I fully stepped into that. And another funny side of that story is that when I went to university, I thought about, so what do I study? And like in the end, I chose Chinese and economics because I love languages and I love mathematics. But I remember that at one point I thought, how about psychology? It's so interesting to like, what are people motivated by? How do they work? How do we work? How do we do life? And my family was like, yeah, but only people who have a serious problem study psychology, and they just want to know what's wrong with themselves. And from today's perspective, I must say, and what's wrong with that? Because I love people who are self-aware and what's going on for them, because they understand what I'm going through, right?
Right.
And so like going into a totally different direction, working with China and Chinese language. And I loved it. That's not the thing. I really loved and enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I meant to do. And like now coming back to this piece of psychology and how do we humans do life and how do we move through it more easily and joyfully and with more meaning. And also like this piece of spirituality, like it took me a while to admit that I love Oracle. I love Oracle cards, for example. I love this whole thinking of how do you say, cyclicity of nature, of us humans, of life. And yeah, it's just so fascinating.
Well, and it is just tapping back into another means of tapping back into ourselves and our intuition and what's true for ourselves. It's so important, and all these things can help us in that way. I'm just curious, now that this is the work that you do, what, since you had so much pressure on your family to be like, no, that's not something that we do, like that's not something that you should study. How are they with what you do now? Are they accepting of it?
I have to.
I love that answer. Oh, I love that.
I mean, I think they still believe that psychology is for a certain kind of people. But well, yeah, they have to just be acceptant of it, and like it's my life, and it's more a thing of how do I behave in the face of that. And I'm just so convinced that I'm on the right path for me that yeah, it's okay.
Well, and again, I love your answer. That is the perfect answer. You know, they have to be okay with it. This is what I'm doing. And I think when we do get to that point, when we can shed all of the outside, you know, opinions and the mindset that's been impressed on us of who are we, what are people going to think of us, and what are they going to say and do, that and fully own. Clearly you are fully owning this and stepping into that. This is you love it, and it's what you're meant to do. That's what radiates out. That, you know, I'm sure, I would imagine that for your family, when they do see that, when they see how the strength in you and the strength in what you're doing and your vision for yourself, they have to be like, oh yeah, like, isn't that what we want for our family? It ultimately is to be happy and successful in what their life choices are. So this clearly is yours, and so I would imagine that they are okay with it. I love it.
Yeah, I also do believe that if maybe not now, they will believe that, okay, it's really the best for her because she's so blossoming and it's really lighting her up. So I believe that's what they want ultimately. So yes,
sure, yeah.
But with the spirituality, that is still another side to the story. Like I think that may be a little harder to take. Because I come from a family that was always very, very down to earth and practical and pragmatic and not woo at all. And I must say that for me, I need a grounded kind of spirituality. Like if I can't apply it to my life and to help me to move through life more easily, then it's not my kind of spirituality. And it's not like, because you see a lot of people doing the spiritual bypassing, like using it to superficially say everything is all right and just love and light without dealing with the shadows that are usually there. But like, as I said, I love shadow work. I love looking at my shadows and supporting others and facing their shadows and finding the treasures in it. And if an oracle card helps me to move with it more easily because it, I don't know, confirms what I've been thinking or gives me a direction, and I find, oh, that's really a good direction, then why not use it?
Right, right. And I think that's it too, for a lot of people. It is, they do see spirituality as just all love and light. And I can say from my own experience, the shadow work is so important. You're not going to move forward and be in any sort of love and light for yourself until you, and I'm finding, and I am sure you see this, is that it's layers of shadow work as well. Like I've worked, you know, I've looked at things and gone, okay, good, I'm good with that now. And then they come back up again, and then you're at a different level now of dealing with it. But it's still peeling back those layers. I have one right now that has been popping up that I'm like, okay, like I'm good with it. I'm on a completely different level with it, but I really do want to get through it and be done with it and move on for forever, be done with it. Like the experiences still happened. I'm not trying to diminish those on any level. I'm just trying to, for myself, find a better place to be with them. And I think that that is so important for the work that you do to help people move through those things, and to see them so they can go to the next, spiral up, like you say. And as you're spiraling, they could pop in again, but you're up here now instead of down here dealing with it. So that's probably something that you experience as well in the work that you do.
Yeah, or that it pops up in another area. Now I've dealt with it in this area and I've completed it. It pops up in a similar fashion somewhere else. I love when that happens. Oh, there you are again.
Yeah, here you are. Well, let's work with you again.
Things come when we are ready to face them. So like, as you said, a layer, like you have to peel back the first layer to arrive at the second. And by the time you've peeled away that part, you are ready to face the second layer, and so on until you arrive. I believe it's a lifelong journey, and we might never arrive in the center, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's so beautiful too, because it is a journey. We're not really trying to maybe necessarily reach the end, because what is the end? Like, we don't necessarily, we need to grow and learn through our whole lives. That's what we're doing. We're growing and learning the whole time and finding different paths, and which is part of what A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life really is. It's the way that things happen and take you on a different path, maybe one way, and then something else happens to take you on a path that way. But ultimately, when you look back, all the steps were the right steps, right?
Totally. For example, if I hadn't studied what I studied, I wouldn't have met my husband.
There you go. It was
through a common friend that I got to know through university that we met each other. And so, I definitely have not have enjoyed every single moment, but I have made peace with the moments that weren't so comfortable. And I'm grateful, super grateful for everything that happened and in the way it happened, because it also, obviously it made me who I am today, and it helped me develop the skills that I have today. And so as I said, I'm obsessed with life in all its forms, in all its shapes.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, the things that we don't know as we're sitting here today, we don't know the things that are coming. And that's the same thing. If we look back 5 years ago, you didn't know the things that were coming your way, to say, if I could go fast forward 5 years and look back, like, you probably wouldn't have said this is where you would be, today, doing this type of work or whatever. And this is the beauty of it, the beauty of the unfolding and the journey. And there are going to be challenging times, and there are things that we have to work through and deal with. But I love that you embrace all of it, and just love all of life and all of what it presents to us. That is such an incredible message.
What you just said, it reminds me that just the other day I found that with the work I chose and the self-employment, I go against all the beliefs and all the fears that run through my family. Like, my grandparents had first a bar, and then a shop, like a small shop with a bakery. And my grandfather was the baker of the whole town they lived in. And they had always had existential fears, because what if the business fails? What if nobody comes or hasn't got the money? Then you're destitute on the streets. And this big money wound of not having enough has continued through my mother to me. And now here I am, and living in self-employment, not knowing if there will be people coming next month, for example. And just having to face it, like facing it, seeing it, being okay with it, taking the fear. Like for me, it's always the image of like taking my fear like a baby into my arms and just soothing it and walking with it, because it shows me also where my greatest potential lies for development and for happiness.
It's true, the generational fears and the generational thoughts that are impressed on us. And yeah, for you to be breaking those barriers that really, like, your, ancestors are like, work, the ethic, which is a great ethic, like work hard and, but if I'm self-employed, will I have enough, if you have the bakery, will I have enough baked for today for my customers, or do I have too much and maybe nobody's going to come and eat what I'm offering or whatever it is? But then to really be an entrepreneur, that's it too, is there's so much of this. This was part of, my dad worked for his whole life for the same company, for a corporation, his whole life, which was great. And he moved up and, he started at an introductory job and moved up, which is great. And that worked really well for him. And he retired. They, at the time, actually, his company was being merged with another company. So they offered him a really great early retirement package. So he retired, good for him and really solid. But he always had this, he would even say about other people, well, that person just keeps changing jobs and they'll never have any retirement because they keep just jumping from job to job. And like for the entrepreneurial spirit, like then what, if that's your mindset for your whole life. And like I said, it worked really well for him, and that's awesome. I definitely haven't followed that path. And things are, working out for me just fine. But I love this idea too, that you've broken through, and that's that added layer too, to me, of fear, that the pressure from your family of, no, we can't do it this way. You go get a job, go do your finance, go do your, these things that will be a secure position for you, or, whatever. And so, yeah, to step out of that, it's a huge, it takes a lot of courage to do that, and to break away from all of those things that have been impressed on you by your family.
Yeah, and I mean, that was what I had planned for my life. Like, at best, work with the same company until I retire. And then I found, like, when I looked at the people around, or like not everybody, but a lot, like they were living from like evening to evening, like after work to after work, from weekend to weekend, from holiday to holiday, always just waiting for the next holiday. And then for retirement, because that might be the ultimate goal. And that wasn't appealing to me, because what with all the life in between?
Yeah, so basically, like, work for, however many years of your life. And then finally, at the end, you can enjoy your life. What about enjoying it all along? What about enjoying it, that whole time? But you're right, it is just this, like, that, and that's what I'm really thinking when I think back on, to my life growing up, is that it was very much a regimen of a very much routine lifestyle. I can tell you that, at least in our household, we ate dinner at the same, like, you could set the clock by the activities in our household, by that we ate dinner at the same time, Dad got home at the same time, unless, maybe there was a little more traffic one day, but like exact, sure. He woke up at the same time every morning, and you could even probably predict when he was in the kitchen eating breakfast, it was just and then the weekends, the weekend routine of going to the grocery store, of mowing the lawn, back then it was for them going to church on Sunday, and then, Sunday afternoon dinners. So you're right. It's like
day to day, evening to evening, weekend to weekend.
And I would also like to honor that, for example, like my grandparents, like my grandmother was born 1920, which was directly after the First War, and she lived through the second. And like my mother was born pretty much soon after the Second World War. And like, of course, this has shaped my family's history, a lot of other families' histories. And I totally get why it was so important for them to get a routine and to get some stability in their life, like thinking of the transgenerational trauma that just is passed on without us even knowing about it, without talking about it. And yeah, so I absolutely get this fear that's present all the time. And my grandmother, I mean, I have in my maternal line, I have really great examples of how you can do it. Like my grandmother, she had her her controlling sides, but she insisted that my mother and her sister would go to school no matter what, and my mother could finish her university. And my mother made sure that I had all the chances that I needed and wanted. And so, yeah, there's always many different things involved.
That was I feel like for those generations, there was like we want what better for our kids and the next generation, which I still feel like we feel that way. I don't see it as much of a structured idea anymore. I think people are opening up to the idea that for some people, the structure of a university isn't the thing, and maybe the people, the people who want to be welders or do those kinds of work are definitely as important, if not more important sometimes, than some of the other work. And so to not pressure some of us, some people into, well, you have to go to the university.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go to learn a skill, learn a trade, and that if that's what your passion is, then go do that. I have a quote in downstairs in my office down there that says, whatever you are, be the best one, right? Like be the best at whatever you choose to be. And I really believe that, like, whatever you want to be, just go ahead and be the best at it, whatever that is. And,
right.
And like, let's embrace that and let's support people in whatever their goals are, whatever their real passions are. And also, at least for me, sometimes my passions have changed. My passions have been different things. And this is where, even for myself, sometimes I feel like this, that maybe people say, oh my goodness, like, what is she into now? And why is she doing that now? Like, just a minute ago, wasn't she doing that? And, for me, I'm not someone who can just do one thing and stick with it. Obviously, I mean, based on what I've done, I can't just do one thing. And
it makes you so rich and such a colorful person. And that's so beautiful. And I mean, I see it with my in-law family, like their main goal was always, children, be happy. Whatever it is you do and enjoy doing, that's the one. Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, whatever you are, be the best at it. And that's the thing. And for some people, that is one thing, for some people, that is the concert violinist, and that's, and they've known that their whole lives. And not to take, like, that's awesome. I mean, that's wonderful if you've known that and that's your passion all your life, and you are, succeeding in that, all, and following that path. But there's so many, I think there's a lot of us who don't have that one thing, and to have the pressure of thinking that you have to find that one thing and stick to it is a lot. And so I think that the barriers are breaking down around that a bit. And you're one of the barrier breakers to do that and to help people through it.
Yeah, and like what I also realized on my travels through the world, basically, is like we humans, no matter where we are in the world, we are so similar and we want very similar things. And like these universal things, if we just want to live comfortably, happily, not every moment, I understand, but like this overall posture of being positive towards life and be with our loved ones. And I don't want to say that's it, but sometimes that's it. Like be with your passions, of course, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think this is one of the things that I love about living in this time and being able to connect, through technology with people from all over the world, and being able to, just sit here with you, and you're in Germany and I'm in the United States, and to have this conversation and be able to connect with you in ways that we wouldn't have been able to even, 15, 20 years ago. And I feel like it does hopefully help spread the message that we are so much similar, and a lot of us have just the same goals to be happy and to be on whatever level of success that looks like for you. These are the things we want. We want to be happy and healthy and successful, for our families, and we want that for others. And I think for me, at least, being able to connect to the people that I'm able to connect with, that I've talked about this before, is I wouldn't know you if it weren't for some of the other people that I've been able to connect with, and to be luckily, grateful to have them in my lives. And I am so grateful for that. And I see it as the world connecting in such an incredible way. And I love it. I'm really so grateful for it and appreciate it on such a different level so many times when I see it happening. And it's just beautiful. And if we can just support each other and even acknowledge each other and be like, okay, good. Like, good for you, Lisa. This is what you do. And I love what you do, right? And then instead of being, this judgment of, oh, what is she doing? No, not judgment. We don't need it. We can just be supportive. And if that thing isn't for you, then that's okay. But even if, I love what you're doing, but even if I, for whatever reason, didn't understand it, could we at the very least say, good for you for doing it, and I can see the value in it, at least that.
Right, just being open to other people that have different experiences than you have. And I saw that in my work for this feminist women's rights organization, where like my projects were in areas like Congo or Uganda or Afghanistan even, and like connecting to the women there was just so eye-opening. And again, like we felt connected on such a deep level, on this shared humanness that I so love. We felt so connected and had so many things to learn from each other's cultures. It's just incredible. And that's what the internet makes possible, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I love that too, that no matter what the culture is, that we do connect on a human level. I have relatives in Finland, and that's a big part of my history and my genetics. And I love my family in Finland, and I visited them. I've been there 3 times, and I always love to go there. But what's interesting to me, especially my one cousin who I really have a strong connection with, I don't speak Finnish. I speak very few words of Finnish. But she would be telling a story at dinner to the extended family that we're visiting or whatever, and I would realize what she was talking about, and she would say, "Oh, good, you understand Finnish," and I would be like, "I don't, but I know what you're talking about, and I know the story you're telling." And so that there is this like level of our humanness transcending, the language barriers or whatever. But I love the culture. I love my Finnish culture and really embrace it. And I love my family there so much. And I do feel like there must be some level of that just being part of me, and that's part of why I love it so much as well. But to connect with these women, you must have had incredible experiences working in those areas of the world as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you made me think of when children meet, like they don't understand a word of what the other says, but they can connect, they can play together, they understand each other perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter the language. They can just, on a human level, connect and play. And that's so beautiful. I love that. So our time together is coming to an end. And I have so thoroughly enjoyed it. But I would love for you to tell us, where you can be found. Tell us anything. Is there anything in particular projects that you're working on right now, or offers that you have at the moment that you can share with our listeners?
Sure, thanks. So I offer my coaching, obviously, soul-based coaching, where we work for at least 3 months together, because when you are going through something deep and heavy, then you want a container that can hold you. I also offer monthly workshops where you can get a taste of my coaching and the questions that I use in a group setting, but each one answering things on their own, and then being able to share what has transpired, because I find that so enriching to hear the different perspectives and the shifts and how other people experience the same thing, the same situation. And then I have a few projects for next year planned, where I would like to move through the moon cycle as an example of our personal cycle, and then supporting you in finding your own rhythm and finding a structure that is supported by your cycle, whereas we often work against our cycle and think we have to be as productive when we have low energy as we are when we have high energy. And so to find your own rhythm and follow that a bit more, that's definitely an upcoming project of mine. And I bet there's going to be a lot of other stuff coming. My ideas are flooding in.
Oh, good.
And you can find everything on my website, of course. And I often am on Facebook, and I do have an Instagram account that I check regularly, but mostly I'm on Facebook. And I guess you can link it in the show notes.
Yeah, I will put it in the show notes for sure, all your website and everything. I do have one question for you. On your website, you have what is it? What do you call it? The 12 days?
It's a bit hard to translate, because it's a Southern German tradition. I call it the mystical 12 holy nights. In German, it's called Rauhnächte, which means something like rough nights. The nights in winter can be rough and stormy. That's where it comes from. And it's a time, I say a time in between time, like between the solar and the lunar calendar. And it's a time where the veils are a bit thinner and we can already gather a few insights around the coming year. And for me, it's always a great time to close out one year, to reflect and let go what needs to be let go, and to envision what the new year will bring. And that's all mixed into the 12 nights. And you can even do some oracle reading, because each night is for one of the months in the upcoming year. And then you can draw an oracle card for that month. And I will definitely have a course there soon.
That sounds fascinating to me, along with your other work. That one piqued my interest, and I thought that was really interesting program that you offer. So
thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, it's like I said, it's very known in Germany, or it gets known in Germany now, and I want to bring it to the English-speaking world as well.
And I think that's a great time when we are all kind of, reflecting on the old year, and hoping the hopes for the new year, and to offer something like that as a transition, I think is really a really beautiful program, course for you to do that. I thought that was really interesting. Like I said, it just piqued my interest when I saw it. So thank you so much. I so enjoyed our talk, and thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. For more information, visit my website at www.lauramuirhead.com.